What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I have on my Space Minifig shirt, and I'm holding the Lego Space reference book, and I have 9 new retro Lego Space sets for us to talk about today. So a couple weeks ago, I was in our local Lego store, and somebody had traded in looked like quite a bit of their retro Lego Space collection, and I have managed to pick it all up. So let's fly into this. So our first set is from 1980, and that is set 6861, and that is the X Patrol Craft. It was 55 pieces and was probably considered one of the medium-sized sets at the time. It came with 1 red space minifig, and as you can see from looking here, when we come up on it on the front, you can see the Lego Space printed tile on the front. We've got the red space guy, a nice translucent green piece, the steering wheel, and as we come along the side here, we can see the engines pieces here, which is really cool that it looks like a multi-stage kind of engine perhaps, or something like that, or a boosted set. So it's a really cool build. I like the size on this one. Then our second set is from 1981, and it's set 6822, and it is the Space Digger, and it's 33 pieces, and it has 1 red space figure as well. It would have been in the UK known as the Space Grabber. And so 2 things about the set. 1, it would have been the smaller box sets you would have seen at the time. They would have had the little tab on them to hang on a peg. Usually probably I think in the $5 to $10 range at the time. But the cool thing about this set is the snake pieces on the back with the grabber that provide a lot of posability on it and a lot of play features, especially for Legos at that time, because Legos in the 80s weren't quite as dynamic as the Legos sets that we have today. I mean, most of them are very monochromatic, those sorts of things. So at the time, that was a really cool thing. Then our third set is also from 1981, and that is set 6801, and that's the Moon Buggy. It has 22 pieces, 1 white space minifig, and in the UK was known as the Space Scooter. Again, a really cool, simple set. Would have been in one of the little boxes, one of the small sets. Has a great printed console piece we can see behind the astronaut. Of course, the astronaut has walkie-talkies. There's extra ones on the ship. It has one of the radar dishes to kind of function as like maybe he's scanning the surface as he's going by. Again, lots of translucent pieces on the back end to signal rockets and boosters, which is a really cool thing to see on that as well. Then our fourth set is from 1982. And one cool thing about 1982 that I noticed in the Space book, reference book, there were only about 3 sets that year. So this is it was a year with a very few sets, and this is one of those small sets from there. And that is set 6880, and it's the Surface Explorer. This would have now been one of the medium sets at 83 pieces, has 1 yellow minifig, and in the UK was known as the Mercury Surveyor. This set's cool too, just like the second set we looked at, has some of those snake pieces, but on this one we have a grabber and a scooper. We also have 3 printed tiles on this one. That includes 2 different computer pieces and one with the Lego Space logo on it. Has a radar dish piece. Looks like they can drive from either direction, as there's 2 steering columns. And this one is a double wheeled set, so it has 6 wheels on each side, so that's pretty cool. And it's the very chunky wheels that were specifically for the space sets of the 80s, so that is a pretty cool set right there. Then our next 2 sets are from 1983. We have the 6803, the Space Patrol, again one of the small sets, 24 pieces with a white minifigure. Lots of good swishability on this set. I also like the fact that this one was one of the few 2-tone sets, not quite as monochromatic. It was a gray on blue set. Again, lots of translucent pieces. He's holding I guess it's like the radar gun. I kind of feel like from the name of it, maybe they're like the little space police kind of thing from that time frame before they did Space Police. So this is a really cool set to have. Like I said, real simple set here. Then our next one is the Surface Transport set 6823. It was 27 pieces with one yellow minifig and is known as the survey vehicle in the UK. Again, a pretty simple set, but cool. Has the steering wheel, the chunky wheels, looks like ladders on the side. We also have a handheld survey machine, either like a metal detector or some kind of searching for like ground cover, maybe the rocks, similar to probably something maybe you would have seen NASA use on the moon, something like that. It also has what I call the little gray filing cabinet in the back that you could stick your sample in, or today I think you often see them as mailboxes and various Friends sets, Harry Potter, those sorts of things. But a really cool set. You can put your sample in there and take it back to your lab or wherever back at your home base. And here's another thing that was kind of interesting that I saw in the reference book, and I kind of wanted to point out. You know, all those little single tile dots that we all know and love and have thousands of because they're always extra pieces. Well, those came out in 1980. They were specifically designed for the space sets so that they could be used as connector pieces in there. And when they came, and the reason why we probably get doubles of them is they still came on the little molded sheets attached, and you'd have to flick them off. And they were always done in sets of 2. So that's kind of cool. So maybe if your set had 2, I don't remember as many extra pieces being in sets back then. But, you know, so if you only called for 2, you probably just got 2, unlike today. Also, I would say those are the ones we've all lost over the years who have had these kind of sets. But I just thought that was an interesting fact to kind of note about these sets. And then our next sets, the next 3 sets are from 1985. And that first one is 6848, and it's the Interplanetary Shuttle. And it has 54 pieces, a red minifig, and it was part of the 1969 Space Value set. Now, it was weird in 85. They must have done like a dual pack, kind of like we see the multi-packs at Christmas. You know, you'll see Star Wars, Friends a lot of times, those sorts of things. So these next 2 were kind of a similar situation to that. This set has lots of translucent green pieces, and I remember having this because I remember the filing boxes that are on the back end of this, and there's 2 of them. And I remember those translucent green pieces. And as much as I love translucent red to an extent, I was all about me some translucent green because, again, not a big red fan, but I like my greens and blues and yellows. So this one really drew my eyes. You can see on the front, lots of great translucent green here. It does have a printed computer piece on the front. Has the radar dish piece on the bottom on this one. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, this one can be converted into a couple of different builds. So it was kind of the precursor to, I guess we could call Creator 3-in-1 sets. Because if you actually go back and look at the instructions, there's a couple of multiple builds to that. Then our next set is the Space Dozer. And I truly do remember this set as a child for 2 reasons. One, because it had the cool scoop that I always wanted to make into the top of a cockpit, and 2, because my dad is big into bulldozers, tractors, anything that digs a hole, plays in the dirt, that kind of thing. And I remember us putting this together and him wanting to go outside and take it and play in the dirt. So I mean, again, Legos for all ages, just proves it there. But this is really cool. This one, again, lots of great translucent pieces. We have 2 computer printed pieces on this one. And also we have the black hoses. And I will say, if you don't have those black hoses, they're going to be impossible to find. I've already been trying for something else and don't have it. I actually have part of this build. I don't know if I have all of it. In fact, that's one of them I'm working on. So I may wind up with 2 of these. But I do know that because today these wheels take a Technic peg in gray that apparently only shows up in Star Wars sets today. And so I was looking for some extra ones of those. And I also learned today that when you're looking at those pegs for Technic like that, and you see them in blue and red and gray, they're different gripping powers, which was something very interesting somebody at the store told me today, and I did not know that, and I found that very interesting. So the red is how hard they'll grip and whether or not they can kind of turn in the set, and that makes total sense, because if you use the black, and I would say like on Botanical, for example, if you do that, the red ones, they're locked in. The black ones have a little bit of movability to them. So never put that together, but just thought that another fun Lego fact. And our last set that we got is also from 1985. And this one was pretty cool because it came with the instructions to it. And you almost never see these with the boxes or the instructions. And that's the Crater Crawler. It's 32 pieces. Has one yellow minifig. And in the UK was known as the Lunar Mobile. And so, again, most of these are very simple builds because of the time. Lego was very simple, like I said back then, not as dynamic, more imagination than play features. Like you had to put the play and play on these. But again, great translucent pieces. This one's pretty cool. What doesn't use the steering wheel, it uses the little gear shift looking things to kind of drive this one. So again, really cool. Has the knobby tires. So these are all been great builds to find. Like I said, really good deal too. Got all 9 of them for about $230. So was really happy about that. Most of the small builds were about $15. The larger builds were between $30 and $45 depending on the detail. So, but also while we were there on the retro theme, they had one of the retro Lego space box or Lego storage boxes from the 1980s in red, and I did pick this up as well. It's actually a really good deal, only 20 bucks. Couldn't beat that. So this is going to be a great storage container. It's a little different than the one I remembered. It has the slide ones, kind of hold no real hand hold. It's just kind of a dent in this. So this though was a really, really cool find at 20 bucks. But y'all have heard me over the months talk about how I really wish I could have found my blue container like that. That it was something I remember it all the way into high school. And I was like, this thing has got to be somewhere around, but I had looked and looked and looked. Well, so happens last Sunday, we were over and I had brought it up again. And Mom's like, go look upstairs. It's not in the barn, go look upstairs, because they have a barn on their property. Some things had gotten moved in, some things, and I was sure it was out there. And Dad's like, there's nothing there, I promise. So I go up there, I don't see it, because I'm looking in my closet, not in what was the playroom when we were little. And so I came back down, I was like, I don't see it. And my sister goes, oh, it's up there, I've seen it. A few minutes later, she walks up, comes back down, and hands it to me. So here it is. It is the my original blue Lego case. And I know because there's marker mark right here. And I did that as a very young child. But this is it. I have played with this thing. Not with Legos. I have done other things with it. But I do now have it. I'm so excited. It has the things. And for those of you wondering where it was hiding, my sister had it the whole time up at her house. Storing my niece's Legos in it. In their playroom. That is such a disaster that I don't ever go up there. So I'm very excited though that it has found its way home to me. So, but that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this retro haul of storage containers and space containers and crazy stories about where they've hidden. If you do, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.